Hey gamers, I uploaded a YouTube short a while ago where I asked viewers to comment their Fakemon ideas, and I would pick the 3 comments with the most likes to draw. And it wasn't until like a month ago where somebody scrolling through YouTube shorts stumbled upon it and left a comment, where I remembered, oh yeah, I made that short, didn't I? Yeah, sorry about that, I had a lot on my plate. Also, I would like to make a long form video on this channel, so hey. In today's video, I'm going to be going over all of the requests I've gotten in the comments of that short, not just the 3 that I was planning. Considering it took me this long to get to an idea that some people were probably excited for, I think it's fair that I cover all of them. I'm going to go in order here and start with a few miscellaneous entries. First is the comment from JK5568. Lucario with a karate outfit from Sock. If I ever make a ROM hack, I would love to feature Pokemon customization outside of the Pokeball that you put it in. Karate Lucario would be pretty neat. Here's that, by the way. Next is No103R. BBL Bulbasauri. No. Center WX39 requests Haxorus mixed with shiny Rayquaza with a derpy Ditto-esque face, and it's an ice type. I do like the visual of a badass bladed beast with Ditto's derpy face. And turning it into an ice type, probably for the blue blades, is a cool shout. I like this. Blue Crocodile says, you should combine Galvantula with Uranium-92. Another way that this could be interpreted is by giving Galvantula a Pokemon Uranium Nuclear type form, in which case I guess this is a Bug Nuclear type. Weird, since Galvanize is still part of its name, but whatever. Pink Hippo U6P asks, can you draw me a Pokemon but whatever you like? I love your channel and the idea of it, good job. Thank you, Pink Hippo, and yeah, sure, I can do that. This is Solippo, the Sun Hippo Pokemon. Solippo lives an amphibious lifestyle, and is able to storm through the water with minimal resistance. Their tail lights up brightly. The longer it shines, the hotter Solippo's skin becomes, and their bodies become so warm that it will boil the water it walks into. Due to their docile nature, these Pokemon are often brought to saunas to keep the water warm. Thank you for the kind comment, Pink Hippo. Now we move on to the regional forms. Tatum J829 says, make a Hisuian Ghastly. Poison fire type, and the rest is up to you. I feel like this could just be a regional form in general, but I want to see how far I can take it with Hisui specifically. I think some neat things can be done here, since the Gengar line is super ambiguous, I guess would be a way to put it. Ghastly is a gaseous little ball, Haunter is a spiky head with 2 disjointed spiky hands, and Gengar is a big ball with occasional spikes and 4 limbs. Kinda like a mix of Ghastly and Haunter. Anyway, I've been prompted to start with Ghastly, then go from there. Given the Ghost type being a huge part of this Pokemon's line, it may end up feeling like a convergent evolution by removing it. Also, I didn't play Legends Arceus, and I don't plan on spending my money on a Nintendo product anytime soon, so I'm going off of things that I learned on Google for this. Fire Spit Island is like the first hot volcanic area that shows up when looking up hot volcanic areas in Hisui, so I'll just slot the new Ghastly in there. And since it isn't a ghost type, it won't evolve into one, so no more Haunter and Gengar. As for the Ghastly itself, it's still a gas, a toxic gas with plasma tacked on in the form of the fire typing. The idea of toxic flames is really cool in my opinion. Ghastly is also thought to be based on the Sogenbi, and it's a being that's often depicted as radiating your typical bright orange flames. Meet Hisuian Ghastly, the gas Pokemon. Studying this Pokemon's biology hasn't been an easy task. Among Ghastly's body being incomprehensible, it keeps lighting my lab ablaze. This Pokemon is highly aggressive. Hisuian Ghastly evolves at level 25, becoming Gristly. Sprouted Feet allows this Pokemon to propel off of any surface that it hits. Once it begins ricocheting, it will only stop when it needs to redirect itself in order to hit the first thing that it sees moving. As you can see, I gave up on the whole Professor Laventon roleplay. Sorry, I'm way too epic and serious for something that childish. Anyway, Gristly learns a new move at level 42, Charring Grasp, a fire type attack that always burns the target. And once it learns this new move, it evolves into Quillotzi, the Virulent Pokemon. Quillotzi have disjointed arms that can stretch 20 feet from its body. It uses them to attack foes from a distance, as even weaker attacks will cause this Pokemon's body to blow apart. Even after bombarding its victim with poison-laden flames, it will only stop its onslaught when they can no longer move. I don't hate how these Pokemon came out. Thank you for the comment, Tatum. The next regional form is from Accuracy Plays, a regional variant of Tangela made of yarn. My fears of making a convergent evolution out of this are pretty strong. There is definitely a sizable biological difference between vines and yarn. The design is doable, and would be funny in a world with a lot of cat Pokemon that would probably chase after it. Sorry Accuracy Plays, but I'm going to make this a convergent evolution. It makes more sense for a creature that is definitely more urban compared to the wild, overgrown, grass-type Tangela. Meet Threadala, the yarn Pokemon. This Pokemon's soft, plushy exterior hides an interior that has never been seen. Threadala has a calm disposition, but can become frantic if met with long periods of eye contact. Despite opting to run when met with hostility, it will unsheath its 2 sharp metal spikes from its body, then swing them erratically if threatened. If it does this too much though, its compact body will loosen up, and Threadalo will be nothing but a massive loose yarn. Threadalo evolves when it learns Slash at level 32, becoming Tangcord. With a body held together by its own knots, Tangcord doesn't fear unraveling. With every battle, its body grows harder. Its 2 metal spikes are now wielded with great effectiveness. It can strike foes with great precision and even greater force. I like how these turned out. I think it's a cool use of the currently unused normal steel typing too. Thank you for the comment, Accuracy Plays. Instant Noodles Q1P says, draw a regional Arbok with a cool belly pattern. Not to be disrespectful, but that would be like asking me to draw a scenic view of the ocean, with the twist being that the ocean is made of seawater. Arbok's belly patterns are all frickin' epic. However, I can do you one better, Instant Noodles, in that this belly pattern does more than serve to intimidate the foe. I thought about putting this regional variant in the same vein as Cubone, in that regular Ekans evolves into this variant of Arbok while not changing itself, but with these two being fairly average Pokemon already, I might as well give Ekans a little something as well. And that something is, this regional form. I'm not sure which region, but that isn't important. What is important is that this variant of Ekans began preying on electric-type Pokemon, which changed its biology with enough time. The rattle at the end of its tail is replaced with a bright light, that lures its prey close, then launches with a powerful bite. Ekans, as per usual, evolves into Arbok at level 22. The patterns on Arbok on this region move in a mesmerizing fashion. Anything that looks into the lights will seemingly become tranced, unable to feel Arbok's eyes glaring into their own. These Pokemon are exceedingly intelligent. I honestly kind of love how these came out, but I don't have much else to say about them. It's a good. Thank you, Instant Noodles. Gambit Games 99 proposes a Dragon-type Oricorio that's kinda like a Dragon Dancer. Dragon Dancing is a pretty cool basis for Oricorio, and one that I'm surprised I haven't seen yet. Oricorio just feels like one of those Pokemon that would get new forms with every new generation. Maybe it didn't though, because Game Freak has proven itself to not want to use fan designs or ones resembling them. Evident from the lack of flying-type evolution we were supposed to get because of how similar it looked to an existing Fakemon. Also, yes, this is my way of saying that I blame the fans entirely for Mega Starmie and for Alligator's designs. Anyway, this Oricorio form is honestly pretty basic, but is at least one of the more unique concepts for a dragon flying type. Meet Oricorio Long, the dancing Pokemon. This Oricorio sips dark teal nectar. This variant of Oricorio is notably cringeworthy to watch on its own due to its seemingly uncoordinated erraticness, and requires multiple members for a routine to work. Those who witnessed the dragon dance of 2 Oricorio were said to have a lucky future. I'm surprised to see that not many other dragon-type Oricorios are shown online. I only found one other design on Google. Anyway, I liked how this came out. Thank you for commenting, Gambit Games. Redu Bela C3X requests a regional Jinx Dark Ice with a signature move that creates an ice. Since I am leaning away from the Psychic type with this one, I think it would make sense to remove some of the more exotic elements of Jinx, which there are a few. Okay, look, some people, my own viewers specifically, may be shocked to hear this from me, as in prior YouTube shorts I uploaded, I blissfully said that Jinx was my favorite Pokemon solely due to it being weird and unusual. And I'll admit, most of that was due to how unpopular Jinx is, and I just had to have a different opinion. I can say with full certainty that Jinx aged really badly. I think a wake-up call for me, aside from just thinking about it in a perspective other than one that I can personally relate to, is seeing the amount of people online who unironically say that it should have stayed black instead of being changed to have purple skin. If you like Jinx, whatever, and again, I'm not one to talk since it wasn't even a few months ago at the time of me writing this that I was calling it my favorite Pokemon. I am not fucking kidding. That's how desperate I was for attention. And really, my current favorite, Masquerain, did not need that shade. That small yap aside, Jinx losing the elements that made it human to a level equally cartoonish and eerie are being replaced for a more wild, twisted design. These rare Pokemon live in the most treacherous area of snow-covered mountain peaks. They enjoy their solitude, and will greet any that it sees with hostility. This form of Jinx learns a new signature move, Verglass Decoy, an ice-type variant of Substitute that lowers the attacker's attack stat if they make contact with it. I don't mind how this came out. Thank you for the suggestion, Redu Bela. Oh, and here's my actual for-real redesign of Kanto Jinx if I had the power to retcon how she looked. Spectic Fox 3469 says, I think I've told you this idea before. This is my friend, by the way. But basically, you have an Ultra Beast that is kind of like White Diamond from Steven Universe, pure normal, with each of the 3 Lake Trio legendaries getting variants to match Yellow, Blue, and Pink Diamond, Mesprit being Fire for Pink, Uxie being Electric for Yellow, and Azelf being Water for Blue, or change up the colors if you want. I think it's interesting to have an Ultra Beast headmaster of the Lake Guardian since White Diamond as inspiration is on such a different level from the other diamonds, and I also like the idea of a group of Pokemon based on Steven Universe characters. I mean, hey, I like Steven Universe. You seem to have the concept down, Spectic Fox, so I'll see what I can do to bring Revision to life. The late Guardians getting a type swap is easy, and basing their personalities around the diamonds is actually not implausible since they do match for the most part. Uxie controls knowledge, and Yellow Diamond values logic and order. Mesprit controls emotion, and I honestly think that it sounds like a Blue Diamond characteristic since her emotions are so volatile that she makes others cry just from being present. And that leaves Pink Diamond with Azelf, which makes sense as they both have indomitable willpower. This then leaves the new Ultra Beast, which, given him being the Quartet Master in the context of the Diamonds, I think it would make sense if its theme doesn't align with knowledge, emotion, and willpower since White Diamond is the ultimate authority that can control others. She's control, authority. She's something that goes against a healthy mentality, so much so that when she's in control of it, she either weaponizes it or suppresses it fully. This is Raynix, the authority Pokemon. Raynix is an Ultra Beast that appeared after a bright, breathtaking light flooded the region. It dons an uncanny smile that seemingly never disappears. Merely touching this Pokemon can make one feel as if they'll never be alone again. Raynix learns a new signature move, White Light, a dark-type light-based attack that prevents both opposing Pokemon from using status moves, super effective attacks, and switching, while the user's ally is locked into the move it used, but gains a 50% boost to its offenses and speed. A massively broken move, I cannot lie. But if there's something that I want everybody watching this video to understand right now, it's that I like my legendaries broken as f***, and you are a nerd if you want fair viability from them. And that's it for the regional forms. From this point on, it's pure new Fakemon that I need to replicate from the commenters' requests to the best of my abilities. I'm going to start with Vladimirius 2025, a Grass Rabbit Knight. My mind immediately went to starter for some reason. Maybe the grass part did that, then the night part sounded really special, I guess. I'm not going to make it a starter though, since Vladimirius did not specify that. Meet Cautel, the Grass Rabbit Pokemon. These ambitious Pokemon carelessly focus all of their attention onto the strongest Pokemon in their territory, analyzing how they fight. Cautel then attempts to replicate them, but to varying degrees of success. Cautel evolves at level 26, becoming Tepotair, the Night Rabbit Pokemon. Tepotair fearlessly runs into battle. It can grow sharp, hard leaves from its bushy tail. Due to its fierce battle prowess, it's often only acquired for its power. However, Tepotair hates battling against those who have no ill will. I like these two. Vladimirius, thank you for the request. Next is Snow Cool White. Fiero, Flying Fire type, take all creative liberty. The Fiero sounding name made me think of just giving an evolution to Mr. Best Kanto Bird, but the invitation to take all creative liberty is just too much to pass up on.
Different voice check. I didn't like how I wrote the original script for this segment, so I'm rewriting and rereading it like some kind of a YouTuber. My inspiration for Fiero stems from a monster that appears in the only anime that I care to keep up with. I'm not exactly beaming to share what I consider entertainment, since this show, while not discussed often, has a very justifiably bad reputation. Is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon? Some people may recognize that title from memes that are like, haha, wow, modern anime and manga have some silly titles. And I promise you, it's basically exactly what you would expect from it. At least for the first 3 seasons. Look, honestly, it is not that good. But it's also not an unenjoyable experience for me personally. Getting past the mandated fan service and big bouncing boobies and butt cracks and the fact that the main character is 14 and constantly being doted on by older women. I was 13 when I found this show, by the way. Don Machi's fight choreography, the music, the animation, and the art direction in general, and honestly, just Belle Cornell's Japanese voice actor alone, along with the story actually being seriously decent around season 4, honestly saves it for me, so much so that I can't consider it to be that bad. Would I recommend it? Nah, the aforementioned flaws of this show are way too drastic for me to be like, oh yeah, you should go check it out. Anyway, the monster that I mentioned a couple minutes ago, the Iguazu, a small crimson bird enemy that moves invisibly fast. They are supremely dangerous, but their main caveat is that they move so fast that they die on impact. I think using that as the entire basis for this Pokemon would save it from just being Talonflame 2.0, and the fire type being a secondary typing makes me think that its flight speed is so superb that it just happens to generate fire around itself. Alright, back to the original script read.
This is my interpretation of Fiero, the Firebolt Pokemon. Fiero makes their homes on the steep slopes near oceans, which they only leave to hunt. These Pokemon are as ruthless as they are fast. That's to say that nobody sees them coming. When it spots its target, it will propel itself with so much momentum that it looks like the air itself might be ripped in half. These Pokemon can knock out even an Ursaring in a single shot, yet Fiero faints upon impact. Fiero learns a new signature move, Beak of Pain. having a base power that matches its HP. No, not the individual stat itself, but it scales with how much HP the user has in total. The caveat is that it deals 100% recoil though, which pairs nicely with Reckless and makes it unusable if you want resilience. Admittedly, it's a really basic Pokemon, but I still like how simple it is. It does one thing, and that's absolutely speed blitzing something in the one shot that it needs. Thank you for commenting, Snow Cool White. Now we arrive at Mimic and Hat 4400, Mini War, the Dingy Pokemon, a water poison type based on the mana War. It's a little jellyfish person on a boat. When it evolves, the boat gets bigger and more mini-wars are added to the crew, with one getting bigger than the others and becoming a captain. This is a really creative concept for a mana war Fakemon that I have yet to see. Meet Mini-War, the Dingy Pokemon. These tiny Pokemon inhabit buoyant objects, on which it floats on the water's surface. They have a nasty, sharp attack that can leave its victims sick for days. If this Pokemon loses a limb, it will grow back into an entirely new Mini-War, and help the original add parts onto its ship. Mini-War evolves at level 34, becoming Maxi-War. Now with a full-fledged boat that can rival that of even humans, Maxi-War is surrounded by a fleet of Mini-War that will follow its every whim. Those that test its crew will face its wrath, and those who fail to continue fighting these Pokemon will face a final lethal blow at the hands of Maxi-War. I love this Pokemon a lot. Thank you for the suggestion, Mimic and Hat. Trenton Trage asks, can you make a Fakemon that is a fire type that has a mask that can spew fire and it is in the shape of a squirrel with the mask? So a squirrel that wears a mask that allows it to shoot fire? A few things can be done with Trenton Trage's concept, and a good place to start would be how to explain the fire breathing. Does it need the mask to spew the fire, or does the mask amplify their fire power? And then it dawned on me. The fire-type squirrel is an introvert, and despite being really good at spewing fire, it's too shy to, so it needs the mask in order to go all out. Where does the mask come from though? Solid question. Maybe it's scrappily made of metal, or the trainer buys it for the Pokemon in a side quest. Meet Cyril, the cowardly Pokemon. Cyril are skittish Pokemon that will flee when merely acknowledged. They love to spew fire, and will try to wow themselves with whatever fiery display they can conjure. But while they desire to show others what they can create, they're too scared of the prospect of making a lasting impression if they mess up. They attempt to wear masks made of wood, but they burn them quickly. Cyril evolves with high friendship when holding the unmeltable mask, becoming Dazufa, the brave Pokemon. The mask it once wore fused with its body and shines radiantly when Dazufa shoots fire. This is a very out there concept, but I think it's neat. Thank you for the comment, Trenton Trage. Juan Cardenas 603 says, Okay, hear me out. A dog-sized mouse that's yellow with a lightning bolt-shaped tail. Definitely an original idea. And I have to agree. The closest thing we have is Pikachu, but it's not really dog-shaped unless you're talking about a very obese Chihuahua. Anyway, here's Petarolt, the Thunder Mouse Pokemon. Petarolt lives near rapid rivers. They are agile swimmers, but they're not strong enough to swim against the current. They use their electricity to cook berries. Petarolt evolves when exposed to a water stone, becoming Rapizolt, the Storm Rat Pokemon. Rapizolt are voracious water hunters, capable of swimming incredibly quickly. These Pokemon can gnash their teeth hard enough to make sparks fly. They aren't as fast on land though. Rapizolt earns a new signature move, Galvafang, an electric-type biting attack that lowers its target's attacking stats by 1. Okay, yeah, this was obviously a comment about Pika clones, but I also think it's fun to make a non-Pika clone electric rodent that evolves into a huge gnarly thunder rat. Thanks for the comment, Juan Cardenas. XX Highmane XX says, mine is a rock grass type penguin Pokemon and it evolves into a fire rock type. It also has a mega evolution. Now it's a water rock type with huge wings and is based on the 3 main elements, fire, water, and earth. It also changes eye colors every time it evolves. This is a peculiar one. Going from a grass type to a fire type for its permanent evolution, only to have the option to be a part water type with a mega evolution is interesting. I feel like the rock type opens the opportunity for it to be like Stonejourner, and that it's more magical than your typical rock type. Maybe it's like a penguin-shaped golem or a living statue. I think the most logical route to go with this is by looking at the starter element in a new light. Grass, or just greenery in general, is plentiful, but is passive and takes time to flourish, and can be destroyed by something as small as fire, which isn't nearly as common as grass on the surface, but only a small amount of it can invalidate the time it takes for grass to grow. Grass and fire are probably the most notable examples of contradictory types in the franchise, but especially with that metaphor in mind. The obvious step up from fire would then be water, which is as, if not more powerful than fire, and obviously way more common than grass. I think the one thing that sets this concept back is the fire type having a water type mega evolution, and not just directly evolving into a rock water type. which I think would make more sense as it starts as a grass type that permanently evolves into a fire type, and I am to believe that it retains its grass type attacks, but as a rock and fire type, it's unlikely to learn any water type attacks at all. This could be its weak point, but I would rather go all in with the idea of it alternating elements entirely with the explanation I provided a moment ago. That being said though, I am still going to give it a mega evolution, giving us 4 new designs in this segment. Meet Penroverd, the grass effigy Pokemon. These small, mysterious Pokemon are covered with vines, and they make flowers flourish from the ground with every step they take. If you see an odd number of them outside at night, it is said that a random volcano in the world will erupt the day after. Penroverd evolves when exposed to a firestone, becoming Penrosir, the fire effigy Pokemon. With eyes that glow a warm orange color, these Pokemon are hot to the touch. The vines that once covered this Pokemon's body are now coursing with glowing cracks that spout fire. If you see an even number of them during the day, a heavy rain is sure to follow when the sun sets. Penrosir evolves when exposed to a water stone, becoming Penrotane, the water effigy Pokemon. Penrotane are powerful Pokemon with massive flippers that can create fissures with a single strike to the ground. The cracks covering this Pokemon's body glow a nautical blue. Every step they take drenches the floor, permanently turning the ground muddy. If more than one of these Pokemon are spotted in a single area, seek shelter immediately. I've established the power of water, so it's hard to imagine what a possible step up could be. But the air isn't concrete. It cannot be grasped. It's omnipresent. You can cause damage with grass, fire, and water, but manipulating the air itself? Meet Mega Penrotane, a rock flying type. The cracks that once covered this Pokemon's body have fractured entirely, but this Pokemon's body is still held together by the air. Its fins spin endlessly, warping the air around it. Those who stand too close to Penrotane find themselves losing the ability to breathe. I know I broke the rules with this one and went against the commenters' requests, but honestly, I love how this came out regardless. Hi main, if you're watching this, I love this Pokemon. Hopefully you don't mind the creative liberties I granted myself. Joshua Dewitt comments, a mochi snake Pokemon with a normal fairy typing. It evolves into a cake snake that's poison fairy, and has a mega evolution that turns into a baked cake snake that's fire fairy. I like the rhyming scheme, Joshua. But again, wouldn't that be a better evolution line in general? You can't unbake something, so going from an unbaked cake snake to a baked cake snake, then back to an unbaked cake snake doesn't make too much sense to me. I like the poison typing for the unbaked form though. Raw cake batter can give you food poisoning, and as every Australian person knows, some snakes are toxic. Joshua, I'm sorry to say though, you are now the 3rd recipient of me walking a lonely road and making my own tweaks that I think would benefit the concept. I do really like this concept though, and again, I'll give the final evolution a mega form too. Here's Mocher, the mochi snake Pokemon. Mocher are fairly weak Pokemon that appeared out of the blue one day, with some believing it to be the ghost of another Pokemon haunting some baked goods. These Pokemon have a sweet smell to them, making them a target for stronger Pokemon. Mocher evolves at level 20, becoming Gabatter, the cake snake Pokemon. The body of this Pokemon becomes sticky to the touch. Despite its pleasant aroma, its body is toxic, and can make those who touch it nauseous. Despite its formidable defense mechanism, Gabatter are herbivorous. Gabatter evolves when exposed to a firestone, becoming Basilisk, the baked snake Pokemon. When exposed to the essence of flame, this Pokemon undergoes a full biological rewrite that turns its body harder and makes its scent much sweeter. Basilisk now lacks a toxic body, but it can spew aromatic flames that stick to its victim forever. Basilisk gets a new signature move, Sweet Heat, a fire-type redirecting move that also burns its target. If used on an ally, it cures them of their status condition. And as I mentioned, Basilisk can Mega Evolve too, this time losing the Fairy typing for a Ghost type to reference the cake being incinerated by its own heat. Basilisk's body produces so much heat that its skin solidifies, losing the once pleasant aroma as its body is burnt to a crisp. Its body seems mostly dormant, but its flame, while not sentient, appears in such a fashion that one can only focus on it. Again, I'm sorry for going against the original prompt, Joshua Dewitt. I love this idea a lot though, thanks for commenting. Now we have Alexander Berry 1665, Pengear, penguin plus gear. Basically a fairly big penguin whose feathers are bigger and wrapping around it, giving it a more tuxedo look, but at the end of its flippers they curl up a bit and look like small gun barrels. TLDR, the idea is that it's just a fluffy penguin that has feathers turned to guns at the end. I feel like this will be very similar to the steel type Empoleon, so I'm going to be subversive and make Pengear a steel fire type. Pengear, the geared up Pokemon. The original location of these Pokemon are still a mystery, as Pengear are heavily adaptable to any environment. They provide enough warmth for themselves to thrive in Arctic climates, and barren deserts only challenge these Pokemon when it comes to finding food. They can fire pressurized blasts of heat from the holes at the end of their flippers, capable of blowing holes through compressed steel in a single shot. Pengear learns a new signature move, Bolt Cult, a steel-type ball attack that always crits the target if it lands. I like Pengear. Thank you for commenting, Alexander Berry. James Otto Y8T says, draw one that looks like a T-Rex with dragon wings, but make a cherry blossom forest on its back with a red Japanese temple. This is Sakurex, the Arbivore Pokemon. Sakurex is a colossal Pokemon that carries an entire ecosystem on its back. Despite being one of the heaviest Pokemon in existence, their wings can still carry their immense weight. It looks like a giant discolored cloud when it flies. Stories tell of prehistoric Sakurex carrying an entire population of Pokemon from their old territory when the weather became too overbearing. Sakurex has a new signature ability, Colossal Body, having the damage from all incoming attacks at the cost of redirecting all incoming attacks to itself. I said it once and I'll say it again. I like my legendaries broken. Thank you for the comment, James Otto. Emperor Jade says, a massive structure that's cube-like floating around, and in the middle is a block-like structure in the shape of a skull with its mouth open. And in the skull is a small naked mole rat that has a smug face and big brows. Jade, buddy, you are really testing my abilities here, pal. I think a starting off point with this would be making the naked mole rat itself. It's obviously immensely powerful if it's confidently riding inside of a giant block-like skull that itself is floating inside of a floating cube. Jade, if you see this video, comment down below your Kool-Aid dealer's number. I really want some. Okay, so naked mole rats lack depiction in mythology and folklore because of their sparsity even back then. I think a fun direction with this would be to use that factoid and make one that is aware of how non-special it is, making it an undesired Pokemon that can evolve into 2 different Pokemon depending on the circumstances. Meet Barol, the mole rat Pokemon. These fossorial Pokemon live several feet underground, feeding on roots and rock salt. The electrolytes they gain from their diet give them immense amounts of energy, letting them burrow for days on end. Despite Barol's tight-knit way of living, they have a strong sense of individualism, which can influence them in negative ways. When leveled up with high friendship, Barol evolves into Molect, the brain mole Pokemon. Upon evolving, this Pokemon's intellect skyrockets, and its desire to be away from crowds amplify. The air around Molect's head visibly quivers as if it's putting off mirages. Curiously, these Pokemon cannot get sick. Despite their unfriendly appearance, when only surrounded by those it knows, Molect are kind. Barol also evolves if a new item called a Salt Chunk is used on it, turning it into Overroll, the Salt Knoll Pokemon. Overroll's body is hidden inside of an unsettling chunk of salt. It occasionally sticks its head out to taunt others. The salt chunk itself hovers off the ground with a mysterious power. Overroll learns a new move, Salt Shield, protecting the user for a turn, as well as inflicting anything that comes in contact with it with a new status condition that makes them avoid attacking the user until they switch out, basically forcing your ally to use Helping Hand for free on top of their other moves. When Overroll exhausts all of Salt Shield's power points, it evolves into Vacuumole, the Salt Vacuum Pokemon. Vacuumole rarely reveals its true body, as it prefers to stay hidden in the large, head-like stone that it resides in. The large cubic prism that surrounds this Pokemon spins eerily still. The ground shakes as it travels, and particles from the earth can be seen traveling up to this Pokemon. Vacuumole has a new signature ability, Stone Body, just a rock-type water absorb, making this Pokemon one of the only direct counters to rock-type attacks. This is a super weird Fakemon, and undeniably the most left-field comment I think I could have gotten. Still though, I think I absolutely love how this turned out. Thank you for the test, Emperor Jade. Davy AAA provided me with a pretty in-depth comment, featuring everything down to stats, abilities, typing, dex entries, and design details. All I have to worry about is designing the Pokemon, which, weirdly enough, I did have problems designing because, Davy, I don't want to sound like a jerk in saying this, but some of these things are just kind of impossible. I like the idea of a cupcake holder being used as an article of clothing on a dumpster-dwelling urban Pokemon, but as a hoodie? I tried designing Sneak Awesome, then realized that it ended up looking like it was wearing a dress or a cloak, which the latter can work, but it isn't a hoodie. Then there's a Paw Shot, which is roughly the size of a trash can, and it uses a soda can as a bulletproof vest. For reference, the common 12-ounce soda can is less than 5 inches tall, an alleyway metal garbage can about 3 to 4 feet in height. I do like that it uses a garbage bag as a balaclava though, that's really neat. Like on paper, it has a really cool design for like a city alleyway Pokemon. I'm going to incorporate the items into these designs, but sorry Davy AAA, I'm going to take some creative liberties. Here's Sneak Awesome, the Raider Pokemon. These tiny Pokemon are a common sight in cities, and use litter and whatever they find in unemptied dumpsters as a means of protection. Sneak Awesome jumps into trash cans in an attempt to startle Trubbish. Also, again, Davy, I'm sorry, but these stats are so unbelievably bad that I added to its base stat total. 127 base stat total is nearly 50 points lower than Wishy-Washy. I get that it's supposed to be a weak Pokemon, but like, I feel like a decomposed beluga whale fetus would have a higher base stat total than this. Anyway, upon reaching level 25, Sneak Awesome evolves into a Paw Shot, the Bandit Pokemon. A paw shot are fairly hefty Pokemon that wear a garbage can lid as a vest, allowing it to deflect hard blows from other Pokemon. They always hide their faces and will flee if their mask is ripped. Despite their undesirable reputation, they get along well with urban Pokemon. A paw shot learns a new signature move at level 52, 5 shots, a special steel-type attack that hits 2 to 5 times, with it hitting the full 5 times if the user is below 20% HP. I know I made a lot of personal changes with Sneak Awesome and a paw shot, but I won't lie, I like the concept of them a ton. They add a ton of atmosphere to the game. Davy AAA, thank you for the comment, and believe me when I say that you have amazing concepts. I would love to hear them more if you watch this video, and I don't want to come off as rude in my comments. And to round out this video, Caps Lock Prime says, a bug dragon based on a golden scarab with a kaiju style body type. The bug type is one of my favorites to make designs for, and kaiju mons are honestly kind of rare nowadays. Here's Sakarab, the golden scarab Pokemon. Adorned with a shiny exoskeleton, Sakarab are as sought after as they are elusive. They feed on tree leaves but will attack grass types that wander into their field of vision. Sakarab can fly for short periods of time. Upon learning Dragon Rush at level 43, Sakarab evolves into Chrysaor, the golden titan Pokemon. These imposing Pokemon boast immense strength. While typically not aggressive, even the most mild of annoyances can cause this Pokemon to uproot a tree and use it as a hammer with no trouble. Chrysaor are noble fighters that seek challenge, but usually end the battle before a minute can even pass. I like how this came out. Thank you for the comment, Caps Lock Prime. And that's all the comments I have on that initial short. Thank you to everyone who commented, and thank you for watching. Deuces.